Hello, world, and welcome once again to Blockchain and the World Economy. I'm your host, Satoshi Chris, and for this episode, we have a really interesting subject. So, last week, we talked about inflation in video games and how developers struggle to provide a solution to this economic problem inside video games. That's pretty much what many central banks deal on a everyday basis, especially in undeveloped countries. While talking about that subject, we got to talk about the Bretton Woods system, which was established after the Second World War, and it effectively made a monetary system that um, put the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. But at that time, none of those countries wanted to have wanted to leave a country with a lot of power under the currency. So the reason they decided that the dollar was going to be the reserve currency is because it was at that time backed by gold. And during those periods of time, 1 ounce of gold was around 35 US dollars. Compared to today, the ounce of gold is a little bit on the $2,000. So um, as you can see, there has been a lot of inflation from the 1970s until today, because in the 70s it was when the basically this Bretton Woods system came to an end on the Richard Nixon's presidency. So so talking about this subject on last week's podcast and last week's newsletter, I thought I wanted to speak about world reserve currencies, and actually I got to learn a lot about this subject. Um, Before we jump right in, please like and subscribe to my channel if you like the content. If you have further ideas for next episodes or for next newsletters, please let me know on the comments below. If you want to subscribe to my newsletter that I send out every week, it's free. That's pretty much the research I do to create this podcast. So yeah, all my info is here. So let's jump right into the subject. So again, I was talking about the Bretton Woods system. I was talking about inflation, and during my research, I started reading about world reserve currencies, and um, and I learned a lot of things that I didn't know. So I want to share this with you. So to begin with, there's no written law that says that the U.S. dollar must be used as a global reference for trade. The reason people use it is because of the network effect. So everybody believes in the dollar, everybody uses it, um, and many countries, such as Hong Kong, for example, it's not technically a country, but they peg their currencies to the dollar. So it's widely used because of this reason. So yeah, there's no written law that says that everybody should use it. Just people use it because they believe in it. But it wasn't always like that. In fact, I didn't know that, but according to my research, Portugal was the first country at that time. It was, or the first global empire to have a essentially a world reserve currency. And the reason this happened, we need to go back to the 1450s, when the Portuguese were basically um, they were having a monopoly on the trade of Asian spices, primarily cinnamon, cloves, and pepper. So um, so they had so much power, um, because basically they control these commodities during the 15th and 16th century, that every other country wanted to have their currency. So Portugal was a global superpower from between 1450 and 1530s. For around 80 years, um, they had the most valuable currency. A few years later, Spain, under the Catholic monarchy, took over Portugal. They invaded them. This a very long story, but to be really short, they created the Iberian Union. Basically, their families got together, they married, and they created this worldwide. Sorry, they created this big empire, which was known as the Iberian Union. During that time, during that time, Spain became the global empire for trade, and they took out Netherlands out of the game. So this was really interesting as well because Portugal used to be basically the country that made all the trades. They will go to Asia, take these commodities and then bring it to the Netherlands, and the they will do the redistribution to all the other European countries. So Netherlands and Portugal had a what you can say a really good business relationship until Spain came in and basically they took over everything and they took out Netherlands out of the distribution network. So Spain became this global superpower. It so that's how Spain had the you know world reserve currency at that time. A few years later, Netherlands they decided to they needed to find a way to compete with the other superpowers. The British, Spanish, Portuguese Empire all had a share of the spice business. So that's why in 1642, or basically around this time, in 1602, actually, the Netherlands created one of the first. It was at that time the first publicly traded company, and they also created um, the first trading house in Amsterdam. So when you think about it, and that's why I thought this was quite fascinating, is because Netherlands at that time they built essentially what is today the cornerstone of capitalism. They built a company named the Dutch East India Company. That's the translation, but this is the name in Dutch. If you're a Dutch speaker, well, this what is used to be called the BOC for short, also known as the Dutch East India Company, and they started this business, but they needed a lot of capital to basically form this company. What they did was they opened a trading house, opened a trading house in Amsterdam, so Dutch citizens and people from around Europe could buy shares of the company, which will later on give them a piece of the profits if they made any profits. So yeah, that's basically what we do now, buying companies in the stock market. But at that time, it was quite a revolutionary way of making your ideas come true. Uh, at that time, the Dutch East India Company became a global superpower, bringing bringing the Netherlands, the Dutch currency, to a um, basically to the spotlight in terms of reserve currencies. They were the most valuable currency. Everybody used them for trade, and also they introduced paper bills as a replacement of coins during that time. So again, a lot of respect for this for the Dutch East India Company because it it brought a lot of advancements, and it basically revolutionized the way people made companies and people traded at that time, relying less on governments or empires and more on the capital that people had. Um, However, all good things must come to an end, and in in the next few years, the Dutch went to war uh, with Britain in Asia, so they disrupted their trading routes, and also France became a superpower as well during those years. So they attacked the Dutch um, in their own territory. So with the Dutch, with the French attacking on their territory, and then the British attacking the Dutch in Asia and their Asian networks. Um, Basically, the Netherlands um, stopped being a global superpower, and that place uh, belonged to France in the next years. Something that I wanted to say as well about the Dutch East India Company is that one of the reasons they failed, it was because they invested a lot in tulips. So this might be another subject for maybe next week or maybe for the next weeks. I want to talk about the tulip mania because a lot of people, um, especially in 2017, 2018, they were calling Bitcoin the next like tulip mania, which is quite interesting because yeah, the tulip mania never actually got to be as tulips were never as priced the same as during the bubble. However, Bitcoin, according to today's price, um, is around 13,000. Let me just see Bitcoin price. That's pounds. Let me search for dollars. Let me just put dollars. Yeah. So yeah, 13,000, 13,500. So and I do believe it's gonna go much higher. So yeah. Continuing my story. Again, I feel that I can spend a whole hour talking about the Dutch East India Company, but also during those times, the Dutch East India Company became the biggest company in history. If you adjust it for inflation, it will be as big or even bigger than Amazon or Apple. So again, a lot of respect for the Dutch and everything that they uh, bring to everything that they brought to capitalism. Uh, After that, again, I was saying about the Anglo-Dutch Wars, um, which made France and their currency become the dominant currency for global trade. Um, Moving on, after France, currency became the UK, the British pound, but it declined after before the start of the First World War. So then the First World War happened, Second World War, and then actually it was after the First World War. It was that was my mistake. In the beginning of the video, I said after the Second World War, but it was actually after the first one that the U.S. Um, became a global superpower, and they established the Bretton Woods system with the currency being the dollar, backed by gold. So that's a little bit of history on how we got where we got. But nevertheless, after the 70s and the loss of the peg in gold, um, things have changed quite a bit. Nowadays, the dollar represents only 61% of international currency reserves. Um, and that's also another thing I learned as well while making this video because I thought that the currency reserves were were more than 60% dollar. But it's actually 60% dollar. Then the euro represents like 20% or so, and then it's then the other 19% is composed of pounds, Japanese yens, Canadian dollar, Australian dollar, Japanese yuan, and of course the Swiss francs. So um, I wanted to finish my newsletter with basically my thoughts for what could possibly be the next reserve currency, and also a bonus that I forgot to add to my newsletter. So I have three, and then I'm gonna say one more at the end that I thought about it. Actually, someone I think sent me a tweet with saying that that could be the other global reserve. Um, so I will add it here, but I didn't add it to my newsletter. So you got this bonus for the video. So I think that if we get to a point where another Bretton Woods system is established, I believe that gold or an index of commodities could act as a reserve currency or as a peg to the currency. That means going back to gold or going back to a commodity-based standard. What I mean with an index of commodities is, if you think about it, the price of gold around, let's say when the Bretton Woods system was imposed, 1 ounce of gold was $35, and with $35 at that time, you could buy, let's say, a new bicycle and maybe a new suit um, for you to wear. And with $2,000 in today's money, you could basically do the same. You could buy a fancy suit and a bicycle. It's more or less what you can do. What I'm trying to say is that the fundamental value of gold haven't changed that much. What we have perceived is a lot of inflation because of the because of the supply that the U.S. and governments inject to their economies all the time. So every time there's money being printed, um, the price of everything else goes up. So the price of real estate goes up, the price of gold goes up. So if you think about it, if you have an index of commodities like food, like gold, like precious metals, food, and any other commodity that you can basically maintain its value, then um, you wouldn't need just gold or any other currencies to act as a reference. And so whenever countries want to devalue their currency for basically to obtain a more power on trade to make their own products more accessible and more and to incentivize people to buy their products, um, yeah, they can devalue their currency, so the currency keeps being elastic. But you have this index that tells you how much has your currency been devaluated. Uh, Please let me know in the comments if what I'm saying makes sense, because I feel that I'm going back and forth with my ideas. But anyways, um, I do believe that the Chinese yuan could be a dominant currency in the future. The reason I believe this is because China is a leader in global trade, but also China is very much advanced with a central bank digital currency using blockchain technology. So, um, blockchain and cryptocurrencies are very big in Asia. I would say even bigger than the US or Europe. Um, Basically, Asian people are just digitally native. They've been using their phones for um, basically they jump that PC era and they went directly into phones, especially China. So the way they use their phones is much more advanced compared to the Western world. They've been using QR codes for way longer than we've been using it, and they have again they are more native to this technology, so they understand it more. And also Asian people seem to like gambling, and these currencies, these cryptocurrencies, they are so volatile that I guess it just makes sense culturally. Uh, and and I can say this because my current boss is Chinese, so basically my way of thinking and bias sometimes is derived from him. So yeah, also China has a lot of gold, and they are buying gold in large quantities since I think since the 2000s, which makes them again have maybe not 100% backing, but they have some hard money to act as a reference for their currency. This is another. Again, I don't have any preference for which one. I'm just thinking out loud here. So if you have your own, maybe if you have your own bias or thoughts, you can comment down below. Third is Bitcoin. Again, I do believe that Bitcoin could become a global reference for trade. That doesn't mean that everybody needs to use Bitcoin for trade or for payments. You can still use the dollar, you can still use euro or whatever your currency you're using. Um, but if everybody has a price on Bitcoin, then there's less inflation in prices. It's just currency inflation. I don't know if that's could be something beneficial. But the reason I started making this series is also because I want people to understand that if you save your money, it will probably lose its value in the long term. I want to teach people to invest. I'm not gonna tell you in what to invest. You should do your own research. Um, but things like gold and Bitcoin could be a hedge for inflation because again you could buy pretty much the same things that you could buy today with an ounce of gold. If you had gold 100 years ago, probably you can still buy the same things. But if you have dollars, let's say when the Bretton Woods system was established compared to today, you probably lost around 90% or more of your purchasing power. So uh, yeah, for for people's savings, there's needs to be people needs to invest, not save money. And last, what I was saying about the bonus alternative for reserve currency, someone, I think it was yesterday on Twitter, they said that probably Facebook Libra could also be the next currency reserve. And actually, when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense because if Facebook is developing a cryptocurrency, they have uh, they have I'm not sure about the numbers, but I think they have over 1 billion people. Let me just quickly search for it. Facebook users. So they obviously have the network effect. They have almost 3 billion people. So they have essentially like more than one third of the world on their site. Um, so yeah, if they develop their own cryptocurrency, which they are already doing, and they develop this system for people for which people can pay, and then they use Bitcoin as a reference or they use dollar as a reference, that could pretty much become the next currency. And I think the reason people are so afraid, maybe not people, but governments are so afraid of Libra and Facebook, is because at this moment, Facebook said that they're only interested in developing a cryptocurrency or a stable coin pegged to the dollar or a basket of other currencies such as again dollar, euro, etc. I guess governments are afraid of them because they could. eventually abandon their index of currencies and just print more money. And if Facebook does that, they're gonna become basically what other governments and other empires did in the past, which is devaluing their money so they can use it for war or for their own benefit. And when you keep printing money, it just the value of the currency it devalues. And yeah, you can print more money, but you cannot print economic output. You cannot print um, economic uh, welfare. If your currency is not worth anything, if there's nothing else to buy, then you can have a million worth of anything or any currency, but it's just not going to be enough. I fear that's going to happen with the dollar in the future, and basically any other fiat currency. So uh, again, Bitcoin is a solution, an index of commodities is a solution. The yuan could be a solution as well, but I feel that they will um, they will make the same mistakes as other currencies have done in the past. So that's why I wanted to finish my article and perhaps today's video with uh, a quote from Spider-Man's uncle. With great power comes great responsibility, and that's pretty much what these countries lack when they have control over the currency. They use abuse power and make everybody a bit poor every day. So, uh, yeah, that's I guess that's all I wanted to say for this week. And yeah, again, I want to listen. I want to hear your thoughts. If you have any questions or comments, drop a comment down below. Like this video if you like the content. Subscribe if you think this could be interesting for someone else. Share the video, and I see you next week. Peace.